Life as a Roman soldier was brutal. Every day tested your body, your mind, and your will to survive. It wasn't just about swinging swords and marching in lines. It was about surviving a system built on pain, discipline, and sacrifice. A job that demanded everything, and often gave back almost nothing. The real question isn't whether it broke men. It's whether you could have lasted. You're standing half naked on a dusty field somewhere in the Italian countryside. Your feet are blistered. Your arms are trembling. Your tunic smells like a goat wrestled you, won, and left you for dead. Welcome to day one of your new life, if you survive it. Recruitment wasn't some noble call to defend the homeland. Early on, sure, you had to own land and look respectable. But once Rome got hungry enough, the standards dropped fast. If you had working limbs, a heartbeat, and preferably most of your teeth, you were good to go. Poor, illiterate, smelled like fermented socks? Even better. Less likely to argue. Once they had you, there was no settling in. There was only breaking you down until you stopped thinking and started obeying. Training wasn't about learning how to be a hero. It was about becoming a piece of meat that moved exactly when and where Rome wanted it to. You didn't jog. You marched 20 miles at speed, wearing armor heavy enough to break lesser men in half. Your sandals sliced your feet open, your shield battered your ribs, and the centurions made sure every step hurt just enough to teach you respect. Every night you built a fortified camp from scratch. Trenches dug, palisades raised, stakes sharpened. Even after marching all day, you worked until your hands bled. Why? Because the alternative was waking up with a barbarian's axe in your skull. Rome didn't do second chances. Weapons training made the marches look like a picnic. You swung a wooden sword twice as heavy as the real thing, over and over, until your arms felt like wet rope. Shields smashed into you, spears flew at your face. Sometimes you caught them, sometimes you didn't. Pain wasn't a glitch, it was the system. Screw up, fall behind, start making excuses. Congratulations, you earned yourself a public flogging. Step out of line and it wasn't just a beating, it was death by stoning. And not by strangers either. Your own squad would be ordered to turn you into a cautionary tale, one rock at a time. And yet men kept signing up. Not because they were stupid, though some definitely were, but because surviving training made you something terrifying. You weren't just a man anymore, you were a weapon. Hardened by sweat, sharpened by terror, drilled until you could march, fight, and take lives without thinking. A Roman soldier wasn't a wanderer or a raider or a lucky peasant with a spear. He was Rome in human form. Brutal, disciplined, relentless. But passing training didn't mean you were safe. It just meant you were finally qualified to die somewhere important. And trust Rome, it always remembered who failed. But training was just your introduction to misery. The real grind began the next morning. You wake up before the sun. Not because you're an early bird, because the Optio just smashed his baton against your helmet. And if you don't move fast enough, he'll smash something else. Dreams, hopes, feelings, those got left behind the moment you signed up. First order of business, inspection. Armor gleaming, sword sharp enough to shave a mouse, tunic passably clean. One speck of rust, one cracked sandal strap, and you're not just getting yelled at, and you're getting flogged until you rethink your life choices. Here, appearances aren't about pride, they're about survival. If your gear fails, you don't just fall, you drag your whole unit down with you, and no one sings songs about that. Breakfast? Don't get excited. It's a handful of porridge that tastes like regret. Shovel it down because today's menu includes a 10-mile march at combat pace, shields up, formation tight. Tomorrow, it'll be weapons drills until your arms forget how to work. After that, maybe a little scenic forced march across mountains just to keep things spicy. When the centurion reads the day's orders, you don't groan. You don't roll your eyes. You don't even blink. The vine stick he carries can knock the teeth out of your skull faster than you can say bad attitude, and he's itching to prove it. Punishment isn't rare, it's not even notable. It's just part of the air you breathe. Breathe wrong, and you get hit. Fall asleep on watch? Your own squad clubs you to death. Cowardice in battle? Enjoy decimation. 10 men draw lots. One poor soul gets beaten or stabbed to death by the other 9. No glorious duel, no last words. Just a pile of meat in the dirt, and a lot of men pretending they aren't next. The system isn't cruel for fun. It's cruel because weakness spreads like rot. And in war, rot buries everyone it touches. In the rare gaps between marching, digging, and bleeding, you might catch a scrap of free time. Most of it's spent fixing broken gear, digging another latrine, or gambling away your pathetic pay with dice carved out of bones. Some men sharpen their swords by firelight, humming tuneless songs no one remembers. Everyone knows the next fight is coming. The only question is whether you'll still be alive to see it. Sleep? Forget it. You grab a few hours when you can, sword at your side, muscles tight, nerves twitching at every sound. You don't sleep like a man. You sleep like a hunted animal, waiting for the next nightmare, or the next real attack. You're not a person anymore. You're a piece of sharpened iron, carried in the cold fist of Rome. This isn't a life of glory. It's a slow, brutal test of how much misery you can take without breaking. And every miserable day you survive, Rome survives with you. But if you think marching and bleeding was bad, wait until you hear about basic needs so you don't sleep in a bed. You sleep in a ditch. 8 men to a tent, crammed together so tight you can't roll over without elbowing someone in the face. When it rains, the canvas leaks. When it doesn't rain, the heat inside turns it into a portable oven. You sleep on the ground on whatever lice-infested scrap of cloth you've managed to steal, with rocks digging into your back and the smell of other men's sweat glued to your nose. Dreaming of home? Nice thought, but you usually don't sleep long enough to remember anything except the latest bad decision that got you here. Food? Also a joke. Rations are mostly hardtack, biscuits so tough you could break a tooth if you looked at them wrong, a handful of raw wheat to grind into something resembling bread, maybe a strip of pork so salty it could double as a weapon. Fresh vegetables? Only if you're fast enough to loot them from a conquered town. Fruit? If you can afford it, and if your comrades don't steal it the second you blink. You cook for yourself, usually over a sad little fire in a dented pot shared with 7 other guys who think seasoning means extra dirt. Meals are burnt, half raw, or both. You eat because you have to, not because anything tastes like food anymore. Water is precious and usually disgusting. You ration sips from leather skins, praying a river shows up sometime this week. When the skins run dry, you refill them from the nearest swamp, boil it if you have time, and hope the parasites are feeling merciful. Spoiler, they usually aren't. Dysentery is as common as blisters and twice as deadly. Hygiene? That's adorable. You scrape the filth off your skin with sticks, communal sponges dipped in questionable water, handle bathroom business. Lice, fleas, fungal infections, all part of the glamorous legionnaire lifestyle. Everyone stinks. Eventually, you just stop noticing because your nose has given up on you like everyone else. Bathhouses exist, somewhere back in civilization. Out here, you're basically a walking landfill with a sword. Soap is a rumor. Warm water is a legend. You scrub your hands with sand. You pick at your scabs and pray they don't turn green. This isn't living, it's surviving. Barely. You adapt. You endure. You become something meaner than the filth trying to eat you alive. Luxury? That belongs to senators and generals. You get dirt, sweat, and the fragile, bitter victory of waking up alive. And even that, Rome doesn't guarantee, because survival isn't the end of the struggle, it's just the start of the next one. The smell hits you first. Not blood, not smoke. Those come later. It's the stink of men, packed shoulder to shoulder, sweating into their armor, breathing like cornered animals. Fear has a scent, and today it's everywhere. The centurion roars and you raise your shield. It's heavier than you remember. Your hand clamps down on the gladius hilt. You try not to notice how slick your fingers are or how loud your heart's hammering against your ribs. Spoiler, it's not working. You aren't standing alone. You are one miserable tile in Rome's wall of iron. Roman battles aren't swirling chaos. They're mechanical unalivers. Shield to shield, step by brutal step, the legion advances like a meat grinder with sandals. You lock your shield to the man next to you. He locks his shield to his neighbor. Together, you move forward, slow and unstoppable. When the enemy hits, it's not some elegant duel. It's a crash, like walls smashing into each other. The world shrinks to the rim of your shield and the face of the poor bastard trying to shove a spear through your guts. You don't swing wildly, you jab, quick, ruthless, straight into the ribs, neck, or belly. Fancy swordplay is a good way to die fast. Your arm aches. Your shield shudders with every impact. Bodies pile up. Some scream. Some just slump over without a sound. You are told, ordered, to never ever break formation. If you chase a running enemy, you open a gap. Gaps get you and everyone around you slaughtered. So you stand, you fight, you shuffle forward. When the line starts to sag, you rotate. Fresh soldiers from the rear push up, and the frontliners fall back if they can still walk. It's a brutal system, brilliant in its simplicity, just enough humanity to keep the unaliving efficient. So you stand, you fight, you shuffle forward. And just when you think you've seen hell, you meet siege warfare. Siege warfare? Somehow even worse. Weeks, sometimes months, stuck outside enemy walls. Living in mud, eating bad food, dodging arrows, fire, rocks, boiling oil. Pick your favorite cause of death. You build towers, ram gates, dig tunnels, fill moats. You watch men get flattened by boulders or set ablaze while screaming for their mothers. You dig another grave, then dig another trench. And when the walls finally fall, it's open season. No ranks, no orders, just pure chaos. You storm the streets, houses burn, men die in doorways, women and children are dragged away screaming. You take lives until your arms refuse to lift the sword anymore. You loot whatever you can carry because odds are no one's paying you for this horror show. You are not a knight in shining armor. You are not a noble hero. You are a Roman soldier, empire builder, city burner, civilization breaker. And every scar, every nightmare, every drop of blood spilled on foreign ground? Rome calls it duty. You just call it survival. But even if you survive the battlefield, the next enemy waiting for you is smaller, crueler, and impossible to fight. If you're lucky, the blade only grazes you. If you're unlucky, you live long enough to realize just how bad things are about to get. Roman armies didn't exactly specialize in mercy, but they weren't idiots either. They dragged their own doctors along, the Medici, men whose main job was to patch you up just enough to shove you back into formation. You want miracles? Wrong army. What you're getting is pain, and a lot of it. First step, getting off the battlefield. If you can walk, you walk. If you can't, maybe, just maybe, someone drags you out. But don't count on it. In the middle of a fight, nobody's risking their own skin to save yours. You are a replaceable part. Always have been. If you make it to the camp, congratulations. Now the real suffering starts. The medic's tent smells like blood, vomit, and iron. There's no anesthesia, no sterile tools. The knife they're about to use on you was probably used on 5 other screaming men this morning alone. You bite down on a stick and hope you black out before things get creative. Minor wounds, slashes, stabs, shallow cuts are stitched up with thread so rough it might as well be fishing line. If you're lucky, you get a tight bandage and a slap on the back. If infection sets in, the surgeon heats up a scalpel in the fire and scrapes out the rot by hand, with about as much tenderness as cleaning a fish. Major wounds? You don't even want to know. If a spear shatters your bone or slices deep into muscle, there's only one treatment: amputation. The medic hacks through the flesh, saws through the bone, and sears the stump shut with a red-hot iron. No gentle bedside manner, no warning, just the stink of your own flesh cooking and your screams rattling the tent poles. They smear salves on wounds, mixtures of honey, vinegar, herbs, anything that might convince the gods to take pity on you. Honey actually helps a little. The rest? Mostly desperate superstition. Some surgeons mutter prayers to Apollo. Some shove charms under your bandages. Some just shrug and move on to the next poor bastard. If you survive the first few days without swelling up like a poisoned pig, you might make it. If fever takes you, the medics don't waste time. They walk away and save the supplies for someone worth betting on. Battle is brutal. Recovery is worse. If you live, you limp back into service. Fingers missing. eyes gone, bodies twisted into shapes that no man should have to carry. But Rome doesn't care how broken you are. As long as you can still hold a shield and follow orders, you're useful. And when you can't, you're discarded like a broken sword. No ceremony, no thanks, no second thoughts. But if you somehow survived long enough to grow old, Rome had one more surprise waiting for you. If you survive, and that's a massive if, Rome promises you a reward. After 25 years of marching, fighting, bleeding, and barely sleeping, you're supposed to get land, money, a little piece of the empire you helped smash together one sword stroke at a time. That promise keeps you dragging yourself forward when your knees are shot and your back feels like it's fused into one big scar. Sounds nice, right? Yeah, about that. The land you get, if you actually get it, usually sits at the edge of nowhere. Rocky, barren, surrounded by people who still hate Rome, and by extension, you. You're expected to farm it, defend it, civilize it. Rome doesn't hand out retirement plans. It hands out new battlefields without the uniform. The money? Enough to buy a mule. Maybe a sad little house. Enough to drink yourself numb on cheap wine for a while. Not enough to buy back the years you left in the mud of foreign wars. Assuming the money even shows up, corruption runs deep. Officials skim off the top. Promises get lost. If you don't know the right people, good luck seeing a single sestertius. And your body? Good luck with that, too. After 2 decades of forced marches and endless fights, you're a wreck. Knees shredded, spine twisted, old wounds reopening every time the weather turns. Some men limp into old age. Some don't even make it that far. And Rome doesn't exactly hand out medical pensions. If you're lucky, you find a quiet farm. Maybe a wife. Maybe a kid or two to help you carry buckets while your joints pop and crackle. Maybe you sit by the fire at night, telling stories of glory to grandkids who don't understand why Grandpa stares at the shadows a little too long. If you're not lucky, you end up begging in the streets you once defended. One more worn-out soldier that Rome forgets the minute you drop your shield. There's no parade, no statue, no victory lap. You survive and then you disappear. Because Rome remembers victories, not the broken men who made them happen. And in the end, the only reward that truly lasts is the one you carry inside. The scars, the ghosts, and the bone-deep knowledge that once you held the line. And nobody, not even time, can take that away from you. But Rome did offer something else. If you could survive long enough to claim it, if you survived 25 years of marching, fighting, bleeding, and freezing, Rome has a reward waiting for you. Land, money, a slice of the empire you helped carve out with your own battered hands. At least that's the sales pitch. Reality, a little more complicated. The land you're promised isn't some cozy vineyard in sunny Italy. It's a scrubby patch of nowhere jammed up against the edge of the empire, surrounded by angry locals who would love nothing more than to stick a spear in your gut while you're planting olives. Your reward is a lifetime of breaking rocks in bad soil and sleeping with one eye open. The cash bonus? Enough to buy a mule, a plow, and maybe a few jugs of bad wine to cry into. Don't get ideas about villas and silk robes. If you want luxury, you should have been born a senator. And that's assuming you even get what you were promised. Paperwork disappears. Officials forget your name. Greedy commanders reassign your prize. If you don't have connections, and spoiler, you don't, you might get nothing but a handshake and a swift kick back into civilian life. Meanwhile, your body is falling apart faster than a broken cart. 25 years of marching in armor turned your spine into gravel. Your knees sound like gravel being crushed under a wagon wheel. Your joints seize up when it rains. Your old wounds open when you sneeze too hard. Congratulations, you're finally free, but you're too wrecked to enjoy it. If you're lucky, you find a patch of dirt to farm. Maybe a wife. Maybe a few kids who look at you like you're some kind of hero. Even if they don't understand why you still flinch at shadows and keep a dagger under your pillow. If you're unlucky, you end up begging in the same streets you once defended. Another forgotten face among the crippled veterans Rome would rather not look at. There's no pension, no health care, no honor guards saluting you into old age. Rome loves its victories. It forgets its soldiers. All that's left is you, the limp, the scars, the ghosts that visit when the nights get too quiet. And if you squint hard enough, maybe a small piece of land to die on. Because the truth is brutal and simple. Rome didn't build an empire by rewarding the men who fought for it. It built it by using them up and moving on. It by using them up and moving on.